Hello friends, let's continue with the tutorial. When we pressed play last time, the console showed a bunch of errors. And most importantly, it is the input actions that are not found. What we need to do is open your games folder. When you created the game, it has a folder with its name. Inside it are all the things that you imported to your game during new game creation, and here is the input system. Open up the controls and we will add the missing inputs here. Toggle cursor. Then we have jump and we have toggle run. Now our game, we won't be jumping, but you need to add this so the warning won't show up. We don't need to assign any binding to it. We can assign the toggle run button, which is usually caps lock, is what I use. Add that there and save the asset. There is more inputs that is not shown here because it was not prompted during our gameplay. So when we look at our action maps, some buttons are not found that are shown in the AC Game Editor setting and under input. We have the basic ones, horizontal, vertical, run, interactions, and the cursor horizontal and vertical are here. Toggle cursor we added. Flash hotspots is here. We don't have skip speech, so let's add that. Do we have end cutscene? Yes. Do we have end conversation? No. So let's add that too. We have a menu button in here. And then the dialogue options 1 to 9. So let's just add dialogue option 1. I believe it's like this. And then we just add the binding to keyboard 1 and do the same to all 9. I'm not sure if you really need to assign every single one of these, because if we have a conversation, we maybe have at most 4. You can just duplicate that, it automatically changes the number, but not the binding. So just go and change the bindings. Okay, save that for now. If it complains about not having the rest, then it complains, it's fine. It won't stop us from playing the game. Now let's see what happens if we play. There is only the action list error thing that we added because we have a cutscene. We created the sound play music, but we don't actually have any yet, so let's remove this. That's fine. The cutscene can be there. Now we have a player, we can move around, but we don't really have a map. So let's create a map. Okay, I've brought in a map for us. Let's move our player start into a proper position around here at the entrance, let's say. There's still no colliders or anything, but I have set, oh yeah, the camera isn't following the player. Let's fix that first. We got navcam 1 here that we created earlier. Under the game camera 2D script, we don't want to lock horizontal or vertical movement. And we want, yes, the target is player, update while paused. Flow speed, we'll have to see how that works, but yes, we have this map, but as you can see, it like ends kinda here. Oh yeah, the speed is not perfect. It has to be faster. Let's just put it to max, and then the offset Let's see what is good. I should check this in gameplay mode. Yeah, not -1. 1 is good. Okay, if the follow speed is maxed, there is no delay. I might as well keep that. It keeps the, yeah, and the ceiling is over the player, and everything else is below the player. Now there might be some issues like this, where you can see that. That's something that we have to deal with. This seems to be fine. Maybe the camera could be a little bit bigger. Maybe 4 is good size. Yeah. If you make changes in gameplay mode, those changes are not saved, so keep that in mind. Okay, now the character is centered and the camera follows. But yeah, the color of the background is like that because it's the background color of the camera, main camera here. But if we just click on the color here, pick color, and just pick the color of the map's edges. Now if we play, we can see that the background color is now the same as the map's edges. So it's just darkness beyond the map's borders, what we have in the sprite. I prepared this map in RPG Maker. It's like this. This is just the map. Then I removed all of the everything else but the ceiling and placed it on top. And I used this orange map shot plugin to just take a screenshot basically of the map. This is how I did it with Forevelyn. The tileset system in Unity is not the best, and also it's not optimized to work with maps, tilesets that are originally made for RPG Maker. This tileset, the pop sprites that I'm using, it's an open license, so I can use it in Unity as well. I just found that it is much easier to just do the maps, like the bases, in RPG Maker, and then take that map and put it into Unity. And I also have all of the different items here from the tile maps separated. So I can just drag and drop, place these however I want. I'm not restricted to the tile maps itself. There is, however, one little thing with this kind of way of doing it, that when we move around, this screen doesn't really show the effect, but it might do a little bit of flickering when you move if it hasn't been snapped to grid. So we want pixel perfectness, so we want the pixels to align, the object's pixels to align with the base map, which is what I'm doing here. How did I achieve this is when you divide 1 by your pixels per unit number, so 1 divided by 48, you can put the formula here, 1 divided by 48, it becomes 0.02083333 and so on. So as we can see, it's still not aligning with the pixels perfectly. It is doing it in threes to move a whole pixels. I mean, we don't want our objects to be like this. So from that, I would times this by 3. So now it is 0.062499999. So now, when we move these objects, it is always aligned to the grid. Perfectly aligned pixels. The numbers up here in the transform might not look like they are good, but they are, trust me. You can just see if it is aligned with the pixels of the map. This always depends what sizes do you use and do you even use pixel art and whatnot. But this is a good way, I've noticed. Just keep the grid snapping always on with this size where it snaps. So you just need to divide 1 by your pixels per unit. If it's not correct, you just press the align selected all axes if it's not centered to your pixels. So like this, we now have pixel perfect placement for our objects. So here I'm checking out what's up with this bed. It has this little problem. It's about the size of the actual sprite. It's set 48 by 105. That is not a good number, so I raised it to 108. So now it snaps correctly. So why this works is because 105, that it was originally the height, 105 pixels, it has an awkward fractional size. So 108 is still fractional, but when you divide that by your tile size, it becomes 2.25 exactly. So that's why it like aligns to the pixels cleanly. So keep that in mind when creating your sprites. If you're using pixel art and you want pixel perfectness, all of your sprites should have correct dimensions. Now let's place something that the player could walk behind. Let's put a table here, maybe a chair too. Okay, now we just need to make sure that these are aligned. And let's also check the size of these things. So it's easily checked by just keeping your grid snapping on and moving around the object. If it aligns to pixels, it's fine. This chair doesn't, so we need to go and fix that. Yeah, I'm going to have to do a lot of fixing with these. 42 by 66 works. If we divide 42 by 48, it's 0.875. And if we divide 66 by 48, it's 1.375. So we have to do a little bit of math here. So each sprite has to align to multiples of 0.025 units, so it works as we want. So let's do the same for this sprite here. These sprites were not perfectly prepared for this. It's fine. 42 by 64. Would that be okay? What was this? This is 42 by 66. 42 by 66. Let's make it the same. Make sure it works. Okay. That is. It snapped. It moves around perfectly now. So what if we want to move these chairs under the table? Like so. Now the chairs are over the table. Just changing the order by layer to 1 is not good enough. We need to use a sorting map. Let's drag it to the side here. And this is tedious, so you might have to change these settings a little bit. We are not going to affect character size or speed, and we are going to affect sprites order in layer. So we need to add areas to this, and the size of these areas, these are too big to make sure all of our objects are aligned correctly. So let's just bring this up, place it on the side here, and add these areas. As many as we need to cover the whole map. And yeah, these areas are still too large. So let's create it like 0.25. That's a bit too much. 0.5. Maybe that's good enough. So then the next would be 1, 1.5, 2, 2.5. Sometimes it forces the number to look like this. There's nothing we can do about that. Don't worry about it. It still works just the same. So keep doing this for as long as you need. The smaller the number is, the greater precision you can have in your sorting. So depending on your character sizes, sprite sizes, everything like that, I believe this 0.5 is pretty good. You need to add more areas as you do this because it goes so small. So we need to just add more of these areas and keep working on it as long as we need to cover the whole map. The bigger the map, the more of this you need. So to save you considerable amount of time, you want to do this as large as your largest map. And then just save it as a prefab and always just copy this whole thing at once to all of your maps. Okay, our sorting map is now covering the entire map. Now select all of your sprites that need sorting. These, not really. If you can't get behind the object, it doesn't really need sorting. But if the player can go behind and front of this same object, then it will need to have sorting. This is a bit awkwardly placed basically here, but it's fine. Follow sorting map script is what we want. Just click on live preview and then let's move these a little bit so it's not actually on the same layer. So if we made these even smaller, then this would not be this much of a problem. So if it was smaller and if I really wanted my chair to be like here, this would need to be a lot smaller, but it's fine. Let's just place them here. That's good enough for now. And then when you're done with that, you want to remove the sorting map. It's always setting the sprite, and this needs to be active only on objects that move, like our player, for example. So remove that once it's done. You can see now the order in layers here are set correctly here. And by default, the player should follow also that for sorting map. So if we start the game, let's go look at our player. Its ordering layer, you can see that it changes as we move around. So we can, we need to block, like make a collider, so we cannot actually walk on top of these things. But other than that, it looks good enough. The chairs, maybe not. So here also the pivot point of the objects comes into play. The table seems to be fine. We can go around it. Just make sure you can't walk too close to it so we don't go over the table. Let's look at the chair's actual pivot point. So where you want to place the pivot point is actually, imagine, not necessarily at the very bottom, but like somewhere in the middle of where you think the chair's legs would be. So around here, 18 by 10. Apply that, and then the same to this, 18 by 10. Apply. Now you can see the chairs have moved. That's fine. We need to apply the sorting map again because we are doing this. Make sure the live preview is on. And now we can see the actual effect of not having small enough number in these sorting maps. So easiest way to do this would just create a separate sprite for all of this. So we need to do some modifying on those numbers here. So let's see how this works with the table. We had to force it up by 1. The chair is not very forgiving, but now we are walking behind it. I believe the sprite sort point might even be at the bottom. Let's check if that works better. So just bottom center. Let's try that. If it works better. The player's sort point also affects how close they can get to the object. This is like you need to do some compromises. Now we'd have to block the player from coming any closer to the table here. So we need to block the player here. This is the closest you can get to the chairs on the table. So let's create an edge collider. I'm just gonna check. Let's place it here by the entrance first. Let's create this very basic shape here. So you would need to like make this all around. Let's just check if the player respects that collider. No, it does not. There's something that we need to check with our player. What's going on here? So our player does have a circle collider. Does it need to have the rigid body? I don't remember. Let's just constrain rotation on this. Is it automatically choosing to move with rigid body 2D? We need to do a bit of checking here. Yeah, rigid body fixes that problem. I suppose we need to have that after all. So if we don't have a rigid body, then the colliders won't work as they should. Okay, well, let's see if do we need to have the move with rigid body. Yes, we do. Okay, so a little bit of backtracking there. We need to actually add the rigid body 2D back to our player and make sure the interpolation is either interpolate or extrapolate. So it respects our colliders. So now just wrap this around the entire map. So let's bring the other end there close to that, and let's just start dragging these pieces around. Okay, then objects that are separate from the edge. We need to add another object with the edge collider. Bring it close to the object itself, and then bring these edges in there, like so. This is probably close enough. Let's test. And let's show the gizmos so we can actually see how close to the object. We could add a bit more, like player can actually go behind the wall here, and we are walking not too much, well, maybe a little less on the wall. This is too tight, we can't fit there. What about this table? Yeah, we cannot go too far here. That's fine. Yeah, this works. Yeah, we need to modify the edges a little bit, so not that far into the wall. We shouldn't be able to go. These paths, these hallways are gonna be tight because we don't want the player to be too close to the wall, so nothing weird happens. And just add these like so. Little bit less on the walls, little bit more behind these walls here. So to give us a little bit more freedom of movement. Like so. I believe this would be good enough. It doesn't need to be perfect, it just needs to block the player from walking on your walls and whatever. Yeah, that's better. We can fit in here. There's a bed. And yeah, this is a problem that you're gonna see with the way I'm doing this. Just barely you can see the player sprite going on top of the wall, even if we're technically inside this room. So just try to make the colliders in a way that this does not happen. This again is about the size of your sprites. But yeah, that's good. We can now move around our map, collide with things, sorting maps. We will be adding more objects in here to decorate this, our first map, our home or whatever. Okay, I believe that's enough for this tutorial here. Setting up our map, moving around, sorting map, fixing our character to respect the colliders here. And a little bit of fiddling around with the sprite sizes. That's quite important if you want your life to be easy. Make sure the snapping is on for the pixel size so it doesn't look weird. Okay, that's good. Good enough for now. Yes. Thank you for watching and I will see you next time.